morning. I'm Nancy Watley, and I'm chair of the Terry Third Thursday committee this year, and I'm pleased to be here for Dean Ayers, who is actually has another commitment with his students, the Deer Run Fellows, this morning. So welcome to Terry Third Thursday and the Teak. This is our Atlanta place of all things wonderful, and we're glad that you're here. This is a great time to get alumni, students, and all of us get together and network. So thank you very much for being here this morning. I'm part of a nice-sized committee, if you will, of our alumni board. There's 9 of us that try and put this wonderful event together every month, and I couldn't do it without them, so I'm glad that I get to be part of a great team, and our sponsors. So let me introduce those. Our Bank of North Georgia is our corporate sponsor, so if we could give them a hand. And then we have 2 media sponsors, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Public Broadcasting Atlanta, so if we could give them a hand. And if you have not already, and you may or may not be aware, we do have season passes to the Terry Third Thursday event every month, so you don't have to go in every month and register. It makes it a little easier. Obviously, you can put it on your calendar. It's really easy. Third Thursday, get it? So if you want to do a event for the whole year, please see the table out front. We do have some upcoming Terry Third Thursday speakers, and for the rest of this year, we only have one more, Ron Rogowski, who is the Vice President of Alternate Channels at UPS, but he's also Chairman of the Atlanta Sports Council. And if you're not familiar with how things like the Super Bowls and Final Fours and all of those fun things get bid on and then come to Atlanta, come to listen to Ron. He's going to tell you how all that's done behind the scenes, and it'll be pretty fun and exciting since we've got all these new stadiums and we're bidding on everything. We do not have a breakfast in December, but we've got a great lineup starting for 2017. We also have some upcoming Terry events. First of all, November 3rd, the Mason Public Leadership Lecture is at the UGA Chapel at 11 a.m., and the chairman of the Augusta National, Billy Payne, will be the speaker there. November 11th is our 2016 Professional Women's Conference. It's not just for women, so please feel free, gentlemen, to attend. It's at the Chick-fil-A home office here in Atlanta. December 14th is the Georgia Economic Outlook at the Marriott Marquis, so I know you'll want to come to some of those. And one more announcement, and if any of you in the room know me, you know I'm pretty excited about this next thing. We are today going to start and try and get a lot of fun going with introducing our Terry Third Thursday hashtag. So we want all of you to be tweeting because we are running a contest. We are going to give away a set of Terry engraved glasses. They're actually very pretty. And we'll be giving that to the best tweet of the morning. So I told Alana, make sure she says fun things so y'all can treat. So without further ado, let me introduce her. Alana Shepherd is the co-founder of the Shepherd Center here in Atlanta. She co-founded the Shepherd Center with her husband in 1975 with her husband Harold and son James, who is a Terry grad and the recipient of the Terry Distinguished Alumni Award in 2003, to treat spinal cord injury. Under her oversight, the center has grown from a 6-bed unit to a 152-bed, world-renowned rehabilitation hospital specializing in medical treatment, research, and rehabilitation for people with spinal cord injury, brain injury, and other neurological conditions. You may recall the horrific accident last spring which claimed the lives of 4 UGA students and gravely injured now Terry graduate Agnes Kim. Agnes is currently being treated at the Shepherd Center and is making remarkable progress. I'm sure we all have stories that we know. Alana has served as the center's chief fundraiser and prime mover volunteer and continues to work as the secretary of the board of directors. Thanks to Alana's dedication to change society to be more accepting, lifts have been added to Atlanta's MARTA bus system, and Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport was made one of the country's most accessible airports. Alana is the recipient of many awards. She's an honorary doctorate from UGA. She has the 2012 J.W. Fanning Award from Leadership Georgia and the Georgia Hospital Association's 2009 Lifetime Heroic Achievement Award. In 1989, she became the first woman elected to be the member of the Buckhead Coalition, and in 2003, she was the first woman elected as chairman of the coalition. She is also the first woman elected to the board of Genuine Parts and Wachovia Bank of Georgia. So if you would, please help me in welcoming Alana Shepherd. who has a broken leg. Don't forget to tweet.
It's great to have a broken leg and have to sit down. It's new for me. And my talk is seeing beyond injury, so I'll tell you what happened first, because if they'd had a video, it would be the world's funniest, believe me. I was out filling the bird feeders and trying to be careful, but I didn't see that I'd stepped in dog poop. So as I put my foot on the patio, it slipped. I planted this one in a little wire fencing, and it caught. I twisted, and it fell under me, and it broke the small bone in my leg. So there I'm lying there, and I'd pulled over a chamaria on top of me, too, because I thought it would keep me from falling. All it did was come over. So I was lying there, and the dogs were barking wildly. And my husband was in the shower. He didn't even know I was outside, so I knew I had to get up myself. And I finally kicked a couple of pots out of the way and scooted on my back end across to the steps and pulled up. Then I walked on it 2 days before I knew it was broken. So I really did it in a way. But anyway, it wasn't my hip and it wasn't my neck, so it'll heal and I will be on the way again. Minor inconvenience. All right, back to the history of this. As she said, our son James was a Terry graduate, and our grandson was a Terry graduate also. So we have a great family relationship with the Terry College, and we're very pleased about that, of course. In 1975, James graduated from Georgia and started out to backpack through Africa and up through South America, and when he ran out of money, he and his two friends would come home and go to work. And he got through Africa fine, but when he got to Brazil, he was body surfing on the beach in Rio, and he caught a wave wrong, and the wave tumbled him to the ocean floor, and he hit his head and broke his neck and was instantly paralyzed. So he said, as he remembered it, he tried to push off with his hands and nothing happened, and then he tried to push off with his legs and still nothing happened, and finally he just knew he was going to drown, and he just had to suck in the water. And he said he remembers vividly the sand going down his throat and coming back up, going down and coming back up. He said it's very peaceful. But all this happened very quickly, but it sounds drawn out. He washed up quickly, and the water was very cold, so that was in his favor. And the lifesaver walked over, the lifeguard on the beach, walked over and looked at him. He'd already turned blue. He turned around and walked off. Just left him lying there. And his friends realized who it was under all the sand, so they came over and started resuscitating him. So we got the call that morning from the beach, from the aid station, and they said, well, he nearly drowned and he couldn't move his hands, but you know, they didn't know what they were talking about either. So we arrived the next morning early, and for the next 6 weeks we had to function in Portuguese, which was not our native language, in a 20-bed hospital that was not a hospital. It was just a little clinic. It was horrible. They took him there because there happened to be a neurosurgeon there that Sunday morning who was reading x-rays, and otherwise he would have gone to a better hospital, but that is neither here nor there. And so things went from bad to worse, of course. He soon was on a ventilator, and he's tall, and so are some Brazilians, but some are not, and the bed was too short. So they stuck his feet through the bars on the end of the bed and suspended them with gauze, which is a good thing in the end because he didn't lose his heels from pressure sores. And then they put the bed up on blocks so that he would have good traction that they had him in. The tongs pulled out one night and they had to be reset, just pulled out of his head here. It was unbelievable nightmares. He got pneumonia, pseudomonas. He was bleeding from stress ulcers. They put a camera down, and there were 17 stress ulcers. So he ended up with 22 units of blood in Brazil, which gave him hepatitis because the blood supply is not that. Oh, I mean, one thing after another. And we were frantically trying to get him out of there, and there were no air ambulances at that time. So finally, we got family connections to get Herman Talmadge to get a medevac plane out of New Jersey, which came for him, which we paid for. And we were lucky that we could do that. So we got him back to the United States and to Piedmont, where we thought, well, everything will be great. These are our friends, our doctors, and it's home free now. Well, it really wasn't. Things still went from bad to worse because that was not a hospital equipped to do what needed to be done for him. And they did their best. They did keep him alive, as he said. They kept him alive. That was great. But things went from bad to worse in the next 2.5 months. That was the 1st of December until the 5th of February we were there. And by that time, his weight had dropped to about 82 pounds from 175 or 80. So things weren't going well at all. And he had begun to move a finger and a toe. So we were always hopeful. And of course, I guess he was. He couldn't talk because he was still on the ventilator. My husband went out west and saw the place in Denver that at that time was doing good work and still is. And so he came back and he said, this is so different, we've got to leave. So we left on the 5th against medical advice. But they all started then coming to us, say, you're making the right decision, you're doing the right thing. And actually, they were so glad to get rid of him because they knew he was going to die on them if they didn't get him out of there. So they were glad in the end to see us go. So he was out there 5.5 months. It was an incomplete injury, which is very lucky. And so he ended up walking with a leg brace and a crutch and walked out of the hospital, which was great. Came back to Atlanta, and he was through with his therapy. He had everything he was going to get and needed. But he and 2 other fellows who'd been out there, one of them Clark Harrison, which some of you people from DeKalb County, some of you old-timers may know who Clark Harrison was, a county commissioner. He'd been out there after having been paralyzed in World War II with a sniper's bullet. And they had operated on his skin flap and done a skin flap for him so he didn't lose his legs. And he said, you know, they all sat around and said, well, something has to happen here so that this kind of care is available. And they said, somebody ought to start something. And that went around and around, and finally that somebody became us somehow. And so we knew that we had to find a medical director. And everybody kept saying, well, find Apple, find Dr. Apple. So we got to Apple, and he had had training in spinal care. And he said, I know this can go, it's so needed, and I'll do the medical if you all do the other part. So we were so naive. Oh, yeah, we can start a hospital. He found leased space in an empty wing of a hospital. We opened with 6 beds. A week and a half later, we were up to 8 beds, 10 beds, 15 beds, 20. And we were a not-for-profit operating in a for-profit hospital. And so it was a 7-year war till we could raise the money to build the building and get on Peachtree Road where we are now. And it was not fun at all. But we hung in there, and it worked, and everybody began to see that this was the proper way to treat people. So in 1982, we opened on Peachtree Road. And when we first started the building, we'd gone to all of our friends in the construction industry and hit them up for money, and they were all generous. Everybody thought we were crazy, it would never work, but they went along with it. And so we had some money, but not all. So we went to Beausoleil Jones at the Woodruff Foundation, and he said, oh, go ahead and start. Once you start out of the ground, the money will come. And I think we thought that he would give it to us because he said that. That wasn't what he meant, though. But sure enough, it did, and it worked. So we opened in '82 with 40 beds. We'd shelled in the top floor, and we thought in 5 or 6 years, 8 years, maybe we can open the next 40. So we would have 80 beds. Well, in 18 months, we'd completed that other floor, and we were opening. So the demand was there. We had a waiting list of some 40 people when we opened, and it never went away. It was just something. And I heard the other day a statistic that we had turned away last year 80 patients, not just the scholarship patients, but 80 paying patients because we don't have the space. And that were appropriate to be admitted. I mean, some weeks we may have 400 applications, and 200 of which are not really the patient that's appropriate for Shepherd. They may be somebody who's broken every bone, and the family thinks, well, that's where they need to be. Well, it might be nice, but that's not our patient population. So then we began to do brain injuries, and that was interesting too. We expanded to 80 beds with that opening of the 2nd floor, and then we built the next building, which Bernie Marcus was one of the chairs for, which was wonderful. That was a stroke of generosity, I'll say it that way. he is so wonderful, and he wanted to see this happen, so he came in and helped the campaign, and we opened and went to 120 beds, and now we have 152 beds. We also have a 2nd campus over on Claremont, and that's 80 places for post-acute brain injury, a day program. So we can have 80 people over here on Claremont in the day program. We have some beds over there, and we're the only people in the Southeast that have that component of care for brain-injured patients. So we're really very pleased. We're the only people that have ICU in this setting in the whole country. We have 10 beds ICU, and that means that we get the most horribly injured, the most critically injured people from everywhere. Our patients come from every state in the United States, and we've up to about 64 foreign countries. So we're not just an Atlanta hospital. We're serving a much wider population of people. We also have the only adolescent unit in the country. Most places don't take you if you're under 18. You end up in a children's hospital. And you can imagine a 15-year-old boy in a children's hospital with a spinal cord injury, and he's the only one there. He needs his peers, and that's why the adolescent program works well. It sounds like this is something that happens all the time, but actually it's infrequent, which is good. So those adolescents are coming from everywhere, and they have each other. They have their own outings, their own team. They elect their own mayor for their hall, who has a job of planning some events, but also introducing all the new families and the patients to each other. And that mayor selects the next mayor when they graduate. When you graduate, you go to the day program, and you move into our 84 apartments. But I missed the apartment part first. The first 30 days you're at Shepherd, if you live more than an hour away, you can have 30 days of free housing, your family, right there on the campus. And this is wonderful for somebody coming 4 o'clock in the afternoon from Boston. Where are they going to find a place to stay and then watch their family member also? It's a wonderful situation. So we're glad to do that. We also get a lot of ventilator patients because some places don't take a ventilator patient. And we can take up to 48 ventilator open airways and have them monitored in ICU. They have a sensor on them that radio transmits it from both buildings. We've never had a problem, but also we've not had a ventilator-related pneumonia in 10 years. This is unheard of, absolutely unheard of, and we're so proud of our staff. We have over 1,400 staff, and so it's not just some rinky-dink rehab operating on Peachtree. It's a big thing going on. And I'm so proud of our staff, I don't know what to do. We have a former patient here this morning. Hold up your hand. Who's a Terry graduate. And I know he doesn't mind if I say this, but we do take stroke patients. We're having 14-year-olds with strokes. Unbelievable. But I think that the medical care is so much better when you have your stroke, that you survive and you do well, and you're doing well, and we're all proud of you with your recovery. So I applaud you for sure. We have 17 employed doctors and 187 consulting staff from next door at Piedmont, and that's very important. Each patient has a team of 12 to 15 people who treat them. There's a PT, an OT, a speech therapist, a psychologist, their doctor, their charge nurse, their rehab tech, their recreation therapist, their urology tech. It just depends on what you need, and their case manager, who's the most important part, because that person directs their care and keeps them on track so that they get out under the insurance guidelines. We don't waste any days. You have therapy most all day long, and you really move forward. If you're down in the bed with, say, a blood clot, or they think a suspected clot in your leg, you've got to go flat for 10 days with the drip. You come out in the gym in your in your bed, and they go through all the therapy with you anyway. You're still lifting your weights. So that's not an excuse to hang back and say, I'll wait till I get better. No, you're going to be better today. So then when they graduate, they can go to day program for 2 to 8 weeks, and they move into the apartments. The family moves back in with them, and that works very well. It's a grand transition. A few people go home first and then come back, but most people go directly and start the next day, and it's much harder work than the other for certain. Then we also have Beyond Therapy, which is a program that an outpatient that lasts anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and they're on the treadmills, they're on the robotic machines, they're just working hard, and they say, they'll come out of there saying, they're trying to kill me today for sure. It's really wild. But the atmosphere is upbeat. This is by design. When you go through your training to come in and to be an employee, no matter what department, it's all very scripted. You will have eye contact with everybody. We think in medical school that doctors are taught to walk down the hall and look at the baseboard. Think about it. When you've been in a hospital and you pass a doctor in the hall, aren't they looking at the baseboard? They're not looking at you, and they're not going to. But at Shepherd, they have to. They have to have eye contact and say hello. You also have to knock on the door every time you go in a room. A lot of things that keep it going, but also Halloween's coming, and they've already got costumes for all the patients and the staff. They've got a haunted farm. It's scary as could be. James was telling, and the patients have made the sets and painted all the stuff. James was telling the story the other day about last year. We had a new brain injury admitted to the first bed in ICU, and that's right down the hall from the gym where they had the haunted house. And they were moaning and screaming and all this, and the guy was coming off morphine, and he said he must have thought he'd gone to the nut house. He was so worried about this guy, and I'm sure he did, but he probably didn't remember it, but I'm sure he was terrified. So we're trying to maybe, if they have that kind of an injury, we'll put them around on the other side of ICU so they're not so close to all that screaming and hollering. We have a recreation therapy department, which is unbelievable. There are about 35 employees in there, and they're going to get you out doing things in the community that you did before, or maybe something you've never done, and it's very interesting. A 1/3 of your day could or should be leisure, and of course, depending on the level of your injury and how paralyzed you may be, you certainly have to adapt and have other things going on. We have 3 deer hunts a year. You can fire a deer rifle with your sip and puff device. It's supported by a pulley here that holds it, so you don't have to put the deer rifle up, but you can still fire it with a sip and puff if you're that limited. Or you can, if you're a para, you're home free to go hunt deer. Then a couple of turkey hunts a year, 2 ski trips, 1 to Colorado and 1 to North Carolina. We have a picture outside one of the gyms of a man who's probably in his late 60s, a little bit portly, and he's paralyzed probably from the mid-chest down, and he's on a zip line. Well, when he came up here from Columbus, he sure didn't think he was going to get on a zip line, and his friends didn't think so either, so we had to have the picture that he could send to everybody to prove it. Get out and do things. We have a deep end in our pool. They can take scuba courses, and then we take them to Florida for their deep dive. They go camping once a month if they choose, and they can either stay in lodges, and sometimes they camp in real pop-up tents, just depending. Get out and do these things. Water ski, it's a sit ski, and they compete. They have a water ski team. They compete all over the world. We have jet skis, tubing, swimming, tennis, bird watching, horticulture, and the 14 sports teams that we have competing all over the world. It's just amazing. So the schedules are posted, and they can go down and watch these people working out at night. And we have loaner chairs for all of these sports endeavors, so they don't have to invest in a sports chair if they want to try some sport for a number of months or something before they have to get their own chair. So we're very proud of that. And this bunch of recreation therapists are just constantly trying to find some way to get you out. We think that if you've already gone out and done these things while you're at Shepherd, when you get home, you're going to continue. You won't sit at home lumped in front of the television and getting medical problems. So it's very important to do this sort of thing. We have 2 chaplains and a wonderful chapel which has just been redone for us, and it's beautiful. And they're not pushing any sort of particular religion, but they say there are very few people that don't believe in something when they get to Shepherd. They reach back to whatever faith there was, and it usually comes forward, but that they work very quietly as that evolves. But it's there for you, and we think that God is going to have his hand on your shoulder to help you get through this. He wasn't looking when it happened. He didn't mean for it to happen for a reason either, in my opinion. I don't like that part, saying, well, it must have happened for a reason. No, it didn't. It was a terrible accident, but he's going to stand beside you in spite of that. Assistive technology. This is the Star Wars part. It's the best department in the country. We have rooms and rooms of technology. We have Georgia Tech here. We do some things with the university, with anybody, and universities in other states all over the country. Anyone who has something that they're working on is probably going to come to Shepherd for the clinical part of it, because we have such a big population of patients, inpatients, and thousands of former patients who are dying to take part in any research that'll make them go forward. So that's exciting. You can operate your computer with your eyes, and your eyes become the mouse. It's called the eye gaze system. And if I'm looking at a keyboard, I'll spell my name. Watch me. A-L-A-N-A, and it's already on the screen. So it's that fast with your eyes. You can get on your computer, you can work your telephone, anything that's electric with the eye gaze system. And there was a kid from Arkansas who'd been hurt in a grain elevator, and he was a high quad, and he's on a ventilator, and he couldn't speak. He didn't have a voice, so he was using the eye gaze. I came in with a tour one day, and he was there with his mother sitting beside him, and I said, can we watch you do the eye gaze? And it's like that, and then he started it up, and up came Victoria's Secret. His mother turned red. He started laughing. But you know, nothing changes. That just proves nothing changes. Oh dear, that was, and everybody laughed, of course, which was good. It was a good thing. The Indigo are the robotic braces that we have used with partnering with the PhDs at Vanderbilt, and Parker Hannafin, the big international company, has taken them to market. So they're going to be out there for people to actually buy. It takes a little bit of therapy, not much, to get using them. You can put them on yourself. You can stand up, and when you lean forward, they activate. And so somebody who doesn't move anything can walk all the way around here. He can walk up the steps. He can walk on uneven ground. And that's a breakthrough. That's the hopeful part, to see the things that are coming like that. Then there's the tongue drive system. A little tongue piercing, a little tiny ball right here on the front of your tongue. This is Northwestern, Georgia Tech PhDs, and Shepherd. And he has a retainer. We've done 14 or 16 people with this. They have a retainer in the top of their mouth, and by touching that little ball to that, they're able to run their wheelchair through the pylons. They're able to work their computer, get on the telephone, all of the things that technology allows them to do with that tongue piercing. But now Georgia Tech says we're going to be able to put all of that retainer part in the tongue piercing, nanotechnology. And just by having it programmed wherever you want to move it in your mouth with no other appliances in your mouth, you will do all these same functions. And we know they're going to drive cars because cars are driverless now. That's got to have some safety checks, of course, before it happens. We don't want to put somebody out there and have it not go well. We have a huge research department with about 35 people who are involved in all of these, about 80-some projects. And then there are UGA students. You talked about Agnes this morning, so everybody is anxious for her. She's made great progress. I saw her working on her computer. I mean, this is just unbelievable. Nobody thought that was going to happen. We're so pleased. And, you know, she has a way to go yet, but oh my gosh. And then think back to the two baseball players, one that was taken out with his motor scooter on the street and the other that was hurt in the game. Ron Corson has been fabulous over there. He can't believe this has happened to them with 3 different athletes than the boy from Louisiana that was paralyzed on the field last fall. I saw Devon yesterday, and I said, I was going to talk to this group today, and could I tell anything? He said, go ahead and tell them I'm doing great. He said, I've been on the Locomat today, and this is the robotic treadmill, and I'm trying to strengthen my hip flexors here and my knees so that I can stand, and he's so hopeful he's going to walk. I don't know that it's possible, but he has the best attitude. But Ron called James that afternoon at 6:30, and he said, you know why I'm calling. James said, we've already got a bed for him. Come on, bring him. So he was there 2 or 3 days later after his surgery in Athens in the hospital. And supportive family. But Ron had a plane on the ground in Louisiana to bring that family here. He has gone overboard, and so has the athletic department. And the whole university system can be so proud of the way that they have done. They have also coached that college in Louisiana of how best to extend benefits and be able to have that boy graduate out there. They have been just wonderful in guiding them and leading them and helping them. And he says, I never expected to see 3 people in my department paralyzed, but he said, this has been something else. Of course, we've had UGA students who've been taken out on their bicycles, the girl who was jogging, people who have wrecks, and then this last one with Agnes. It's unbelievable. We're so glad we're there for them. So we have Kirby Smart has agreed, as soon as football season is over, he's going to do a prevention video for us. The Alabama coach, Saban, has already done one. Saban had did one for us. Of course, it doesn't show in Georgia, it shows in Alabama. But what we thought was, in prevention, which we're very much into, as you see the slides up there about diving, it's very important. And we think that they'll look at a coach saying, giving a message of safety, where the doctor in a white coat, nobody's going to remember it. But if the coach says it. So we're trying to get a lot of the coaches in the SEC, and then hopefully it'll spread over the rest of the country and can make an impact for preventing injuries, which is very much a goal that we have. Our share, we also have an MS program. We have over 3,500 MS patients under treatment. We have 3 doctors in that clinic full-time, so we're glad. The Share Military Initiative is wonderful. Bernie Marcus came to us and he said, I am furious the VA is letting these people fall through the cracks. These young men and women are not getting the treatment they deserve, and I want to do something about it, and I want you to do something about it. And we said, what do you want us to do? And he said, I want you to set up a program. And we said, we'll try. So when your biggest donor says that, you generally jump around a little bit, which we did. And we set up the program. It's been going 8 years. We've treated over 600 men and women with PTSD and concussion injuries. They stay with us 2 to 3 months. It costs them nothing. We raise $1.2 million a year to fund the program. And we have a complete staff. We've leased space across the street from us. They have to have a quiet place. In fact, they lock the door. They are so jumpy and so distraught, most of them. They don't want anybody behind them, and they're not going to let you get very close to them either. They don't want you up this close. Stay away for about a month till they begin to calm down and learn how to deal with their PTSD. They are so damaged, it's just pitiful. And nothing happens for them. The VA is doing nothing. Bernie went with our staff to present to the VA. They just blew us off. We'll take care of our own, they said. Yeah, big deal, they're taking care of their own. They're not doing a thing. They're just overwhelmed. There are a few good people in there, but I'd like to know how many of you, if you were a doctor, would go work at the VA. Hold up your hand. Oh, where are you? Yeah, it's a problem, and somehow we've got to solve it. But we're trying our best. The first 2 weeks that they're there, it's all intake, not where this is what we do. It's what do you want? How can we best help you to keep your family intact, to help you live your life in a normal way? One of the guys, usually they don't talk to you for a while, but occasionally they finally open up a little bit. And one of them told me one day, he said, I was standing at the kitchen sink, and the first thing I knew, I was on the floor choking my 14-year-old son. And he said, I don't know what happened. I have no reason why to do it or anything. He was just horrified. But it's just unbelievable. But in that time, and over 600 people that we've treated, we have not had one suicide. Not one. And every day, yeah, I know. Every day, 22, they say, commit suicide in this country. That's horrible, horrible. But we even have they stay in our condos down on Biscayne, a couple of blocks away. And we have a resident there who checks them in at night, or they don't really notice it, but she keeps a chart in everybody's name. So-and-so went out to dinner with these two, and they came back at 9:30 and seemed to be in good spirits. So-and-so wouldn't leave his room. And so they're really tracking them carefully, and that's how we've prevented the suicide, I think. Just being extra careful. Prevention, as I said, is a very big thing for us. And you'll see this slide here. It says, the only safe dive is the dive you never take. 2 years ago, Dr. Murray had all the adolescent patients. And 2 weeks before school started, he had 14 young men and women who were diving injuries who had broken their necks from all over the country. He said, this has got to stop. Diving is preventable. Don't dive. Don't let anybody dive off your boat, your dock, a rock, a bridge. Don't let them run down the beach and dive into the surf. Turn around and flop over backwards or something. Don't do it. And the diving injuries are not just adolescents. They're people, you can see the age group, people in their 50s, 40s, 30s, any age. And of course they spike in the summer. You see the big spike there. But diving injuries will go on through November. We probably have had 30 this year. That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of lives that are changed permanently. One of the patient's mothers had her camera out when her son ran down the beach. And can you roll that video? I want you to see. Here he goes. Yeah, you don't see his head, do you? Did you see his feet float up? And that's the last time that young man ever walked. Look again. He never walked again, and he never will. Thanks. So, can all of you all make a commitment that you will put a sign on your dock and don't let anybody dive off your boat? And stop the kids who are running and the adults who are running down the beach and diving, and just say, that's so dangerous, please be careful, please don't do that. Something, you've got to stop it. And only by everyone knowing what they can do will it change. So all of us have to be vigilant there, I think. We say we're seeing beyond injury. It's not what you can't do, it's all the thousands of things you can still do, perhaps differently, but you can do them. And that's what we're trying to impart with our patients. You can move forward with your life and be a productive member of your community, whether you're a wheelchair user. Again, don't say confined to a wheelchair. They're not confined to a wheelchair. They can get out and water ski, they can scuba dive, they can do all these things. They're your wheelchair user. And I get after the press all the time because they're always saying so-and-so is confined to a wheelchair. No, they're not. They use a wheelchair. So we see beyond their injury and hope that they will be parts of their community and out coming to breakfast at the Terry third Thursday, like you are. So we want them to lead a life of meaning after their catastrophic injuries. Thanks.
So we're going to open it up for some Q&A. I know we all probably have questions for Alana, but remember we're taping this, so remember to get the microphone, if you will.
Questions?
Yeah, we got one right over here.
Yes.
Thank you for today. I thought this was wonderful. I think what Shepherd does a great job of, too, what makes you unique, is the engagement you have with young professionals in Atlanta through Junior Committee and Shepherd Center Society.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about that for the group?
I will. The kids who are just out of college can join the Junior Committee and on up into their late 30s. Some of them stay in the program a long time. Mainly they're looking for a new date, but they deny it. We've had 35 marriages out of the group, and last fall one young man came in the boardroom because that's where he and his soon-to-be wife had met on the Junior Committee, and he proposed to her in there. I can't imagine wanting to do that in the boardroom, but that's what he did. Yes, oh yeah. And then they graduate on to the Shepherd Center Society. So it's a group of 300 to 400 young professionals, half men and half women, and that's the big deal, of course. But they put on Derby Day, and they raise over in the neighborhood of $100,000 for us a year, and the Summer in the City raises a little bit more than that even. So those things are great, and we loved having volunteers around. You can also volunteer as a feeder for a patient who is unable to feed themselves. You would feed 2 patients. It takes 90 people for 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. 90 folks, woo. And that's where somebody said Duncan Beard couldn't be here this morning because he's feeding patients. Well, that's good for him. He's feeding his 2, and then he goes on to work. But thanks for that question. We welcome volunteers. And also I want to say thank you to the Bank of North Georgia because they put on a casino party twice a year for us. Anybody here from the bank today? You are. Okay. The only one? Did you work the casino party? Yeah. Well, they bring roulette tables, crap tables, slot machines, bingo. 21, they're the croupiers. The staff of the banks are all dressed up, and they serve drinks, and it jams our auditorium. You can hardly move in there for all the people that are up there. It's very popular, and some of the patients even want to come back, and they sneak in as a former patient to enjoy that afternoon. It's just amazing. You win play money, and then you go redeem it for prizes over at a prize table. It's a big deal. And also corporate people put on barbecues and cookouts for us in the front garden, and we set up the tables, and families from out of town are the ones who are entertained, the families and the patients and even the staff. They can't believe this happens in a hospital. And it's because of the Atlanta community that that goes on. Another question? Yes?
I don't have a question. I actually just have a comment. So one of my neighbors, she had a surgery gone wrong, and at 16 she was paralyzed. And she went to the Shepherd Center, and she has been an incredible advocate for you guys in our neighborhood, and in a lot of the community that we both share. She kayaks. She plays golf. We actually play golf together. She goes camping. She's actually the owner of one of the largest franchises here in the U.S., and she's got like 27 offices nationwide. And I've asked her, I was like, Stephanie, how did you keep it together? And she's like, oh, Joanne, there's benefits of being paralyzed. I don't ever have to buy new shoes. Right. You know, like, and it's
I
like.
only have one.
And she has said time and time again that it's the Shepherd Center that helped her kind of turn her whole perspective around as far as what happened to her. And it happened to her when she was 16. But she's married. She's got children. In fact, our daughters play together. And so anyways, I think on her behalf, I just want to thank all of what you're doing for the Shepherd
Thank
Center.
our staff. They did it for her, for sure. And the peer support is great, too, as I said. She was there as an adolescent, and there were other adolescents, and some of them have been there longer than she. They were already full into the program, and so she said, well, I can't be a jerk and not do this, and off she went. So we're proud of our graduates, for sure. It's very, and we have a golf cart that brings you to a standing position and braces you so that if you have upper extremity use, you can play golf. So that's how she does that. Others? All right.
What is something that you have for so long wanted to achieve with the Shepherd Center that you're just still working on, that you're not quite there? What are your goals?
Well, the technology improves every week. There's something new, and that's one of the goals, is to see the things continue to improve their lives. The technology gets more sophisticated and easier and less expensive and everything else. That's probably the real goal. Mm-hmm. Yes. All right.
Thank you so much for being here today. My favorite part of the Peachtree Road Race is seeing the patients, and it inspires me to finish the run. I wonder if the patients know how much they inspire us and how. What is their reaction to being out there, because it's so inspiring to us?
Well, for the most part, only 40% of our people are from Georgia, so it's new to them. And when the runners go by, it actually makes a draft of breeze when the whole pack comes along, and so they're getting swept with wind. It's not the freshest in the world. It's there. And so many of them come over and give them a flag or shake their hand or something. And there's one man who's run the race for, I don't know, maybe 20 years. And he puts a baggie in his waistband, and there's a check in it to Shepherd, and he hands it to one of the people out there. He won't let us identify him. All he wants is a little thank you note for the IRS and nothing else. And he's done that for years. And, you know, the person who gets it acts real puzzled, and we quickly go over and get the checks. But you also see people who are just having a terrible time. All of a sudden they look over there and see our patients. Oh, they get a little straighter and they get a little more energy to make it. And I think the patients, a lot of them say they're going to push it the next year, and some of them do. Some of them it's 2 years out before they push it, but a lot of them will determine that they want to be part of the race. And we've sponsored the wheelchair division since the beginning. So the track club is wonderful to support us in that, and we do it and take it off their shoulders, so we're glad to.
Alana, it's been fun hearing you talk about everything this morning. Would you maybe talk about decubitus ulcers, pressure sores, and how y'all take care of those things? Because that seems like one of the really serious parts of these type
Well,
injuries.
everybody has to do a weight shift every 20 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on their skin tolerance. If I were paralyzed and sitting here, I would be making sure that the circulation goes for a minute here, and a minute here. Or if I was in a power chair, it would recline for a minute while I took the pressure off both my heels, the back of my calf, and my backside. But the cushion in your chair makes a difference. It's got to be the right cushion to help you with that. But most people have a timer the first couple of weeks they're there to help them remember. That timer goes off, and no matter what kind of therapy you're doing or who you're talking to, you've got to do your weight shift to prevent that. They see the videos of what a pressure sore looks like, and you can, if people have let one get away from them at home someplace or in a nursing home or something, sometimes you could put your hand down in the sore even and see the bone, and that's beginning to get an infection. That's what Christopher Reeve died of, was a pressure sore that he did not want to have repaired. You lose protein and you get septic, and that's it for you. So they're very serious, and that's one of the things. Do your weight shift, do your weight shift. That's what they hear right away, and we're very, very firm about it. Yes?
Thank you very much for coming today, but you talked about graduates. How many graduates would you say you have, or do y'all track your number?
45 to 50,000 probably. And yes, we track people at risk for a year or more, and they will, and even the soldiers, they will go to Ohio to check to see that they're getting the services that they are in their community, that they're accessing, that they're doing okay mentally and physically, and what's going on, and that sort of thing. So we track all of our patients. This is a special program for over a year, and keep the contact as necessary to make sure that they're not going to be rehospitalized.
Yeah, those of us who ride down the road every day by your facility, we just don't have any idea about what goes on in there, and so I just wanted you to frame it up for everyone. But you know, we're at the Terry, and we're about business and those sorts of things. And so you said 40% of the patients are Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So funding has to always be a challenge. Help us understand
Well,
what you do there, what that's like, and your primary source is, because everyone in here at some point in time may have the ability to help.
Well, first of all, I'd say read the fine print in your insurance policy. None of you have read it, I'm sure. Has anybody read it? I thought so. I haven't either. I'm trusting my insurance person, but I guarantee you it probably might say 2 weeks of PT and $1,500 durable medical equipment. That means your wheelchair, your shower chair, your ramp that you have, and all that sort of thing. We have 1/3 scholarship beds. Our board's committed to this. And so we raise enough money in the community to make that happen. That's just what we're about. And after that, your insurance payers, workman's comp is fantastic, of course. It's probably the best coverage that someone can have. It's not a candy store, and we tell the patients that, but it is wonderful coverage. And beyond that, it's insurance. And I'd urge you to read it, because to up that PT days to 6 weeks at least, or 8 weeks, is very little money. I mean, it's pennies for the whole year. It's just a few dollars for the whole year, say. And for the durable medical equipment, a wheelchair, the least wheelchair that we prescribe for people, we don't sell them, but we spec them out with the vendors, would be about a $2,400, $2,500 chair for a para who's quite active. A chair with a ventilator on the back can cost as much as $80,000. Wow, that's going to take a sting out of your budget, because that's your wheels. That's your way of getting around, and that reclines and does your weight shift, makes you more independent. The power chairs that run with a control here start about $8,000 and go up to maybe $38,000, and about $28,000 would be the average price. That's a bunch. So I urge you to read your policies, because you just prove none of you have. And this is a business school. Hey, hey, hey. Just call your insurance agent if you don't want to read it, and tell them to up the days and up the cost of durable medical equipment, the coverage for it, and then you'll be safer. Does that answer your question? Is that it? Thank you. That was a good question. Yes?
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm a physical therapist, and so I'm very curious about the research. My apologies. Hi, I'm a physical therapist, and I'm very curious about the research that you talk about. Is there any way that we can read about the good things happening at Shepherd?
Yes, go online, shepherd.org, and you'll see some things there. We have over 90 PTs who work at Shepherd. We have 11 gyms working. The 90 PTs are encouraged, as the OTs are, encouraged to do their research. If they think of something and they think it's a better way, that's part of what we ask them to do as part of their job, is to be creative. And they're always thinking they're the leaders in the country. They're at the top of their profession, and they know it. And we support them in every way. So the research is everything from, we've done 5 stem cell injections now. And now the last 2 have, the first 3 were safety things to make sure it was safe to inject cells into the spine. Well, that proved, yes, that it into the spinal cord. That proved that it was safe. Now then the company is giving massive doses, and we have seen some good, promising results.
I have one follow-up question. Can you talk a little bit about the partnerships with other, maybe Emory or?
Yeah, we have it with everybody. All of Emory's PT and nursing schools and people like that spend clinical hours with us, as do Georgia State, University of Georgia, Mercer, West Georgia, other colleges from we have professional relationships with something like 33 universities, so people can apply for internships at Shepherd after they graduate. Is that kind of?
Yeah, I just wanted to see kind of the linkages of how
Yeah.
you all work together to make this
Yeah.
happen.
And a lot of our therapists like to co-treat with another, because it's 2 minds working on somebody's problems, and it just goes so much faster. And every patient's a little bit different. It's not so cut and dried. So they're working each one individually to see what they can improve in their situation. Emotional as well. Everybody's in on the emotional part. And there's cross-training too, because if somebody's got an open airway in the gym or on a ventilator, the therapists can suction them. They don't wait to call respiratory therapy. It's automatic. Just do it and be on and go on with the therapy very quietly. It's very interesting dynamics. Yes?
Medicine is traditionally a male-dominated field. Can you talk about some of the challenges you faced as a woman?
Oh, well, I'm only an honorary doctor, not a medical doctor. My father was a veterinarian, and that's the closest I came to getting into this. We have some women doctors. Yeah, Dr. Elmers has adolescent patients now, most of them. She has 2 teams. Dr. Benenga is in the, she is in the outpatient clinic for spinal cord and brain injury. We see more and more male nurses, but predominantly female, and therapists are, I don't know, we have an awful lot of male therapists. It's a great profession for a man and a woman. It takes some strength, more than you might think, but some of the slightly built little women are doing great with that. So I'm sure there are challenges, but I think the medical schools and the PT and all the schools for allied health professionals are welcoming people of both male and female. Do you think it's a real challenge? What's your background? What are you?
I also work in a nonprofit.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious more from a leadership perspective, not as a
Yeah.
creating a medical center, especially in the Southeast where traditional roles are looked at more strongly. If you face any situations where you felt challenged.
I feel challenged every day, but I meet them. For sure. Just be strong and go on.
Any more questions? Well, Alana, it has been fabulous to have you today, and I won't make you get up. I'll bring it to you. We present a keepsake to all of our Terry Third Thursday speakers. It's a glass sculpture created by Loretta Eby.
Yeah, James has one on his desk. Now I'm second besting him. Thank you. Very handsome.
And before we close, I wanted to give you the winning tweet from today. If I can, I took a picture of it from his computer. The tweet was, "Amazed at Mrs. Alana Shepherd and her bulldog spirit. What a heart for service and vision for lasting legacy. Hashtag Terry Third Thursday," and that was Jason Huggins. Jason?
Good. Oh, the glasses.
Congratulations. Thanks for playing along.
Thank you very much.
And don't forget, everybody, if you haven't had your parking validated before you leave, please do that. And everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next month.